Ladies and gents, my name is Xander, aka Deislayers, and in this video, we're going to discuss the Arcstrider subclass, and more specifically, the Way of the Current. As many of you have already done so, you've probably unlocked this subclass as well, and not just this, but you've done so on the Warlocks and on the Titans, as well as the other Hunter subclasses, and so the way in which you do so is by obtaining Seeds of Light. These Seeds of Light can be obtained by doing the raid, as well as doing Blind Well. And so once you guys get your hands on one of these things, I'd be very careful to select the right subclass and the one that you want to use, because they're very difficult to come by and quite rare as well. Now the main reason as to why we're doing this particular subclass first is because not only is this one my favorite subclass of all the other subclasses on the Hunter, but it's also because of my very good friend Itachi Uchiha, who asked us to do a video on just this. Now for those of you looking for videos on the other Hunter subclasses as well as the Titans and Warlocks too, I'm going to be eventually getting to those, but it's just going to take me a little bit of time, so please be patient and I'll try and make those ASAP. Knowing this, what we're going to focus on in this guide is how this particular subclass called Way of the Current is going to focus and play within the PvP environment of Destiny 2. What that's going to entail is how the super works, and more importantly, all the combos in which you can use the super for, and we're going to go into a private match so that we can see exactly that. But furthermore, I'm going to show some exact examples of how these combos are going to be used and how they can be interchanged to fit your playstyle the best. In addition to this, we're also going to discuss the melee ability and how that's going to incorporate with the Marksman's Dodge and Gambler's Dodge, as well as the subclass's perks, and of course the grenades, and which grenade is going to be the best for multiple types of engagements, whether that's 1v1, 1v2s, and of course 1v3s. The only thing left to do is to eviscerate that notification button, and let's jump right into the video. The very first thing that I want to discuss is all the Arcstrider combos that you guys can do within the super itself. But before we can even get into that, you have to know the very first perk that comes within this current subclass, and that's called Whirlwind Guard. Whirlwind Guard states that while wielding your arc staff, hold down L2 to deflect incoming projectiles, and doing so triples arc damage for a very short period of time. Just by hearing that first initial description, as soon as you happen to deflect even 1 or 2 bullets, you're then going to increase the arc staff's damage threefold, and for that fact alone, it's then going to be able to take out a lot of wide variety of supers, but also do much better in taking out possibly 4 groups of enemies, and maybe even get you a 7th column. And if that's the case, the Arcstrider super is going to eradicate, decimate, obliterate, and truly annihilate every single guardian in its path. As we go into this private match with an Endless Veil, what I want you guys to understand at first is 2 very basic moves within the Arcstrider super. The first one is just simply by pressing R1, as that's going to do a nice sweep effect that's going to kill a guardian almost every single time instantly. But what you can also do is press R2, and R2 is going to give you a nice massive powerful uppercut, which is going to do more damage than the single swipe from pressing R1. Following along this exact same premise on the ground, what we can also do is push R1, and then that's then going to do a double swipe mechanic, which is going to allow us to have a wider variety of ranges to attack more guardians. On top of that, we can even take this one step further and push R1 3 times, which is then going to complete the entire combo series, but at the very end of the combination, you're then going to be stalled for a very short period of time. And in that stall mechanic, you're then going to be open to other types of damages from rockets or from other types of supers, so that's something that you have to keep in mind if you're going to use this R1 combination. Luckily for us, this isn't the only combination that we can do on the ground, and we have a second one that's even going to have even more range and more damage output, but it's much more difficult to master because we have a very high tendency and leniency to push R1 spam as fast as we possibly can. So knowing this, you have to keep the mechanics in mind by pressing R1, and then R2 to this massive and incredibly awesome force palm push, just like in Star Wars, and for that fact alone, it looks like you become a Sith Lord. As far as ground combinations go, you now pretty much have all the skill sets that you need, but what I want to tell you now is that instead of having to do the entire combo from one way or the other, what you can do is simply press R1 once, and then press circle twice to do a dodge mechanic, and then go back into another combination by possibly pressing R1 twice, and then once again do another dodge mechanic to keep dodging back and forth, and thus break yourself from the combo itself. This dodge mechanic right here is very important to master. and that's because not only is it going to allow you to dodge bullets as you're getting closer to the enemy guardians, but more importantly, it's going to be able to allow you to break up the combo that you're doing. And so what this is going to prevent is that lag delay at the end of the combination by pressing R1 3 times or R1 twice and then R2, and that's then going to allow you to continue your animations to go from one guardian to the next. Understanding that, the very next thing that we've got to discuss is how you guys can use this super in the air. And so as you guys can tell, I've just popped my super, I've jumped into the air, and then I've pressed R1 once. Not only is this an attack to actually damage guardians, but more specifically, this is a fantastic maneuver that's going to allow you to cross the map distance very quickly. The very next thing that I want to show you is once again by popping my super and then jumping directly into the air to press R2. That's going to do a massive ground pound, and that ground pound is then going to have more damage, just like the uppercut is by pressing R2 on the ground. And so in this case, both of these mechanics are very similar. But more specifically, it's going to be able to damage guardians instantaneously on the ground as soon as you happen to be on them in the air. With that, I think that you guys now have a very solid understanding as to all the combos in which you can use with this Arcstrider subclass. But what I want to do next is I want to show you guys a nice little montage, or rather I should say a compilation of Arcstrider supers, and you can see the way in which I'm using them in a variety of ways. For the most part, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to number one, pop my super, and then be able to block a little bit of incoming damage, and then do some kind of combo. That combo is either going to be pressing R1 3 times, pushing R1 twice and then R2, or maybe I'm going to break that combo and then just go ahead and decide to do the double dash by dashing left and right, and then push R1 R1, do some more dashes by pushing circle, and then continue the final combination by pressing R1 twice and then R2, or whatever it might be. In a lot of these cases, I'm doing exactly this. What you're also going to notice is that sometimes I'll pop my super directly into the air, use the mechanic by doing that helicopter move, and then do a ground slam directly onto the enemy guardians below me. And this is a fantastic way to not only catch guardians off guard, but it's very nice to change up the super in the way it's meant to be used. If that wasn't good enough, this super right here is phenomenal for one more important reason, and that is neutral game. This brand new way of the current subclass is going to allow you to deflect lots of variety of supers, and that pertains to golden guns, smashes, blade barrages, nova bombs, hammers, whatever it might be, you name it, and this thing can just about deflect every single thing in its path. However, this way of the current blocking mentality can't do everything, and some of the supers that I cannot block is something like that, the brand new Stormcaller one with its incredible force palm push, or possibly even something like that of the Voidwalker one as well, where it has that massive radio effect, and if that's the case, then you can kiss your Arcstrider goodbye and into the nether realm. Despite this, you guys can clearly see that this brand new Arcstrider way of the current subclass is going to be exceptional, not just for its neutral game, but for its lethality as well. If there's one thing that I really wanted you guys to take away from seeing all these types of combos and maneuvers, is to know that this super is meant to be used in a wide variety of ways, and not just to use the one combo over and over again. If you do so, not only are you going to become more predictable, but you're going to get downed almost instantaneously every single time. Thus, I would highly recommend that you use a little bit of one combo in the air, then use the next combo in the ground, constantly change it up 24/7, and if you can do that, not only is it going to be extremely fun, but on top of this, it's going to make enemy guardians a little bit salty. Understanding how the super works, the very next thing that we've got to discuss with this way of the current subclass is the melee ability itself, and that's called Tempest Strike. Tempest Strike states that after sliding, you activate this melee ability to unleash a devastating uppercut attack. And might I add that this uppercut attack is so much fun, and it can do massive amounts of damage up to 130 points. And when this is the case, it's going to be very simple to either finish off a guardian or to damage a guardian first, and then finish them off with a primary or possibly a regular melee. The most important characteristic about this particular ability is that after you use it, you're then going to get this massive boost in the air, and it's going to be like a jump mechanic without you having to actually jump itself. The reason why this is key to note is because after you do so, you could then jump further and get even higher into the air. And so what this is going to allow you to do is have this marvelous 360-degree view, because as soon as you happen to do this ability, it's then going to give you a third-person perspective. And the reason why that's vital to state is because that's then going to give you a better decision making process, because then you're going to be able to see guardians coming from your left or your right, or in front of you or behind you. Whatever the case may be, this Tempest Strike ability is going to be incredible, but just keep in mind that you have to be able to use it either as an anticipation ability or as a reaction ability, and whichever one that you decide to use it for, make sure that you're using it as second nature, because you're not going to have it all the time. Now, the way in which you can actually get this ability back faster is by, of course, using Gambler's Dodge. And as soon as you happen to use your dodge ability on the Hunter, you're then going to get your melee ability back as long as you're in close proximity to enemy guardians. For me and my personal playstyle, this is not the way in which I like to use this thing, and that's only because I like to have a Marksman's Dodge, which is going to give me my reload instantaneously as soon as I happen to dodge. The reason as to why this is because the majority of my weapons either have 1, a very slow reload speed, so I want to reload them faster, or number 2, they have kill clip. And so as soon as you happen to dodge via the Marksman's Dodge, you're then going to activate kill clip as soon as you happen to get that first kill. Comprehending this, you guys know your playstyle the best, and so whether or not you like to be able to dodge via the Gambler's Dodge or the Marksman's Dodge is entirely up to you and your personal playstyle. Just keep in mind that this Tempest Strike is only going to get more powerful, and the way in which it does so is what we're going to discuss right now. Now you're probably thinking, alright Xander, so how the heck does this Tempest Strike get even more powerful? And the way in which that happens, my friends, is by another fantastic perk called Ebb and Flow. Ebb and Flow states, number 1, that hitting a target with an arc ability will electrify them. But more specifically, meleeing electrified enemies disorientates them and grants grenade, melee, and dodge energy back. So as you guys can tell from that one description, this is fantastic, because every single time that you guys happen to damage somebody with Tempest Strike, you're not only going to disorientate them, making them stunned so that they don't know exactly where you're coming from next, but in addition to that, it makes it very, very easy to finish them off with a hand cannon, a sidearm, another melee, or whatever it might be. Furthermore, Ebb and Flow is also going to grant you grenade, melee, and dodge ability energy every single time that you land a Guardian with Tempest Strike. For each one of those abilities that I just mentioned, the amount of actual recharge is going to vary from one to the next, but just know that if you happen to use this thing with Gambler's Dodge and do 2 Tempest Strikes, you're going to get your abilities back very, very quickly, and on top of that, enemies are going to be disorientated, and that can be not just 1, but 2, possibly even 3, making for a very nice and crispy triple kill. Now if you happen to think that that was good, I've got some even better news for you, and that's because this way of the current subclass has one more ability, and it's called Lightning Weave. Lightning Weave states that melee hits greatly increases the weapon's reload speed, and the wonderful thing about this particular statement is that this can actually be done regardless of whether or not you have a Tempest Strike charge or you don't. You can activate this Lightning Weave perk every single time that you happen to get a melee on a Guardian, and so whether or not they're up in your face or they might be a little bit further away, you're still going to be able to proc kill clip on weapons, and that's the main reason as to why I love this perk, is because I have kill clip on almost every single one of my weapons, or at least some kind of damage buffing perk, and so having that increased reload speed is going to be very, very efficient, and furthermore, it's going to allow me to play even more aggressive than what I already do. Now, if you were to ask me, this Lightning Weave perk right here is one of the most underrated perks about the entire subclass, and that's because it can be applied not just to one weapon, but to all weapons, and for that one reason, it's extremely powerful. Knowing that, the only other thing that I want to discuss about this subclass is something that's not actually related to the subclass itself, but rather to the Arcstrider as a whole, and that's the grenade ability. But what we gotta keep in mind here is what grenade ability is going to allow me to have the best overall outcome, not just for 1v1s, 1v2s, and potentially 1v3s. Once again, if you were to ask me, there is no doubt in my mind that the best overall grenade is the Arc Bolt grenade. And the reason as to why that is because not only can it do 90 points of damage instantly, but it can also do it to up to 4 Guardians. And when that's the case, this thing literally has so much damage output for a wide variety of cases, and that fact alone is going to make it universal, not just for 1v1s, but potentially 1v4s. And in a game of comp, when we're facing all the sweaty McSweats and we gotta put deodorant over our entire body, that's exactly what we gotta have. Now, I'm not saying that an arc bolt grenade is the end-all cure-all to every single engagement, because you do have 2 more grenades, and there's a skip grenade along with the flux grenade. But the thing about those particular grenades is that one isn't going to do instantaneous damage like the other one does, and 2, both take a little bit of time to either do massive DPS, or they take time to track the enemy guardians via the skips, and then of course do damage over time. No matter how that you look at it, either one of those grenades simply isn't going to cut it for those 1v2s and 1v3 engagements. And for this one decisive fact, the arc bolt grenade is the key deciding factor here and easily my choice for a 1v4 engagement. After hearing all this information, I think that you guys now have a very solid understanding as to how this way of the current subclass skill tree works within the Arcstrider Hunter. The super itself can not only block incoming damage, but it can block a wide variety of supers as well, making it have a very good neutral game. But furthermore, it's got a wide variety of combos that you guys can use to make the super even more lethal than what it already is. And if you're changing it up constantly from one combo into the next, it's going to eradicate every single guardian in its path and emancipate every single guardian from their ghost. On top of this, the Tempest Strike melee ability, along with the Lightning Weave ability and Ebb and Flow, they're all going to allow you to have a very aggressive playstyle. And for those of you who have that hyper aggressive playstyle just like I do, that's going to fit you to a T and really going to allow you to use SMGs, hand cannons, sidearms beautifully and make them all even more deadlier than what they currently are. I don't know about you guys, but using this way of the current subclass is an absolute blast because every single time that I happen to down a guardian by deflecting their super directly back at them, it's such a very satisfying factor to the point where I think that I have to go take a shower because I'm just so filthy. Let me know your guys' thoughts on this down in the comment section below and whether or not you agree with my assessment or you don't, you're enjoying the subclass or you hate it, as I'm definitely going to read all those comments and you know that for 110% certainty. Lastly, go ahead and check out some of my other new videos, as you guys can see right there on the screen. If you happen to enjoy this one, then you're definitely going to enjoy those as well. And that's pretty much all that I've got for you as of right now, and so as always, Deislayers, great gaming, until next time.